आपका जीवन परिवर्तित होने जा रहा है। परिवर्तन के लिए तैयार रहो। जय आर्यवत।
मेरा सौभाग्य है कि मैंने इस धरती पे जन्म लिया।
From what I've gathered from the trailer and the episodes that I've seen, the show is set in this dystopian society where there's this really scary totalitarian regime called Aryavarta. So I want to start by asking you that it's of course based on a book. So I want to ask you what appealed to you about this material in the first place.
Dystopian has always appealed to me. I mean, I've been since I was a kid. I mean, I remember reading 1984 and being blown away, and then being a fan of P.D. James' Children of Men, and then as I grew a little older, I saw Blade Runner. There was something that became very obvious to me when I was growing up, was that how do you imagine the future? We can always imagine the past, which is history is a part of imagination, in fact. But to imagine the future, you have to know the present. And there has to be something, a whiff, a smell, or fragrant, or a seed that takes us into the future. It can't exist without the present. And there was something about this that really appealed to me: the climate, the place of women. How do we keep our dignity as humanity? Pollution, the have-nots, the creed, the caste, the division, what's happening in the world, totalitarianism, authoritarianism. And it's all over, and when you look at Venezuela, you look at Trump, or you look at, I mean, it's not just, it's not right next door, or the confusion with Brexit right now. It's too close to home. So it felt that in order to retain our dignity, perhaps we should be cautioned about what is possible for all of us. That's what attracted me.
Well, more or less the same. I think I agree with Deepa that, dystopia, of course, for me has always been about what if this life today that you have, and I mean, no matter how good, bad, privileged, unprivileged your life is, you always think, chalo, you made your peace with it in some way, and you're used to it. So there's comfort in those givens that you have in your life. But what if all those givens, are taken away from you? For example, right now, women in some states in the US have been, the right to, sort of have control over their bodies has been taken away. Now, for me, when I read something like that, I just go like, 1 second, what if something like that happened here and someone took away that right from me? How would somebody deal with that? True. And I feel like as a person who just reads and watches, it makes you a little sensitive about the fact that, like supposing the right to vote is taken away from you, then what would you do? So for me, Leila is about that cautionary tale, about just letting you know that, some things that you take for granted living today in this place and time, if that's not to be in 20 years from now, what are you going to do about it? And how would you respond if it came so close to home?
Yeah, I think that's the feeling I actually got when I saw the show, because you always assume that, this is happening somewhere else, this could be a possibility, but to see it, I mean, happen, and even on a show, but just vicariously even live that is just like really scary. So
that's good, actually.
Yeah,
to be chill, to be contemplative, to feel fearful. I mean, it's like if somebody says that you won't have drinking water tomorrow. What are you going to do?
Scary.
Would you put on the tap?
Would you commit a crime for it? Would you kill someone for it?
Exactly. What would you do?
Someone's take a kid away, what would you do? Like,
exactly.
How far would you go? And you're just like, these are very difficult questions, and and when you sort of relate them to yourself is when it really sort of hits home.
But I mean, speaking of like being close to hometown, do you think that the political climate over the last few years or something has prompted you to probably look at the material differently, and maybe it could eventually be a sort of a reality for people? Was that something that also crossed your mind?
No, not really. I mean, I didn't say, okay, this is going to become a reality, that's why I want to do it. I mean, I think it's possible. But I think that I was talking to a friend of mine, Ramek, who did Fahrenheit, the remake of Fahrenheit 451. And we were talking about exactly the same thing. And I said, why do you want to remake it? It's already been made. He said, because there's something really scary about books being burned now.
Yeah.
So I think as it's becoming closer to home in different parts of the world, we're realizing that this is just not our problem. It's the problem that is
Across
facing
the border.
across the border. Yeah.
But I don't know if you've been following like reactions on social media, but there's been this whole thing of hashtag Hinduphobia and like ban Netflix and things like that. So is that, are you prepared for some extremist sort of reactions to the show?
To be honest, not really, because I don't think
No,
there's
I mean,
anything in
I
the
was-
show that would sort of elicit that sort of reaction.
Yeah. No, I
But
mean, nothing should elicit any kind of
I
extremist
know.
reaction, but I'm just saying that
Sure.
people are...
No,
but
but
Lego
it's
fans.
like saying you watch what is that Looming Tower, that show, and you watch that show and it's an anti American show, or you watch some of these
I don't know.
several films that get made, and so it's an anti-Muslim sentiment.
Yeah.
I feel you can't be so generic, you're just
Yeah,
trying to
of
tell a
course.
story, and they just happen to be characters.
And it's also exactly,
Yeah.
and one day, everybody's against Padmavati, and the
Yeah.
next day it's being celebrated. So who knows,
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
it'll happen to
Yeah.
us also.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what is the sentiment? Because like one day you're...
Kya pata?
Yeah.
You know, it's not as if it's consistent.
Yeah, and I
that's
think in
true.
the time you don't watch something,
I know.
how can you make up your mind before watching it? I'm like, "Ab
Pehle
dekh
dekh
lo,
lo, haan."
then we can have a discussion about it. Without watching it, I think you guys have
Trailer
made
pe.
this. I think they're going because of your reputation.
It's all my fault. She says it's all my fault.
Not at all.
Isn't that
It's
what
a
people
compliment.
do, though?
huh?
Isn't that what people do? Like people are in any case basing judgments on trailers, on snippets, on small articles.
I know.
But I think
So
it's for people, for them to question themselves and why are they thinking like that? That's all I have to say about that. What makes you feel like that? Because that was not the intention, nor is that the show. So why are you thinking like
It's
that?
not the show. It really
Yeah, it
is.
is. What has this opportunity or this platform given you as a filmmaker? Like, what do you think you've maybe felt that you could do differently?
I think it's different for different things. I mean, I make most of my films outside. They've been released, even though they might have been made here, they've been released outside. So we don't have the same censorship. I mean, I
Right.
think censorship is different from rated. We have ratings.
Right.
Something is restricted. And Netflix also has that.
Yeah, of course.
Some shows are restricted and some are not. And I think that's more sensible.
Exactly,
Then it's left to the viewer
To
to decide, and it isn't censored for you. So I feel that as far as this is concerned, it's excellent.
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel like a mature human being, a responsible human being, or a responsible parent saying, no, my kid who's 10 years old is not going to see this.
Right.
So there's a sense of ownership. There's a sense of, again, dignity. I keep on coming back to the word dignity. And I think that's very important. So I'm happy about it.
Yeah, because I think for Indian filmmakers, it's like it's a nice sort of newfound freedom to
Of course.
actually
There's
tell
a
the
lot of
stories
creative
that-
freedom.
There's
Definitely.
a lot of
Because
creative, and
you
it's
can-
excellent.
Yeah.
It's excellent to have that.
And I mean, I'm sure you know this, the whole box office pressure is taken off
Yes.
your
yes.
head, which I think is the
You
nicest
you
thing,
won't
right?
believe how many conversations I've had with a lot of Indian filmmakers and producers and actor friends of mine. And they just like, sometimes you want to tell a story, but you feel ki "Arey yaar, this one now, I don't know who will watch. Will somebody sitting somewhere will watch it in some, part of India. And then you try and make stories which sort of are safe in that sense. But then do you take away from actually telling this way the story needs to be told? Maybe not. So I feel with a lot of people in India, I know especially, are finding a lot of freedom in being able to tell a story through a platform like Netflix. Because you get out of this whhole race of whether it's a hit or a flop.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about, what's going to
Friday.
happen or whatever. I'm just only concerned about my performance and whether I'm good enough or not. Like Deepa didn't cast me because, I was going to get 100 crores at the box office. I hope she cast me because she thought I'd do a decent job.
I did. I didn't tell you, but I did.
Yeah, but you're so good on the show.
Yeah, because if it was a regular film, she could have gone to like any of the bigger stars and I wouldn't get a chance. So thanks, Netflix, for giving me a job.
That's seriously candid of you, but what has this given you? Like you've done work very selectively. There's been times that for months on end there have been no films. Do you think this will now prompt you to work
Now
more?
she's going to Hollywood.
Have we lost you?
No, you haven't. You'll never lose me. I'll be around. I'll mandrao around you guys. But no, I think for me, I was very clear. I wanted to act and be an actor because I really enjoy doing this. And I'm an actor, and I came here to be an actor. So when I don't enjoy being on a film set, I'd rather not be on a film set. I have far too many other things in my life to do, like read and travel and, I have many other interests. But when I'm shooting for something, I really want it to mean something. I want to grow old and be like, oh wow, like I did some amazing work. I collaborated with interesting filmmakers, and I have this body of work to show for. I don't understand this need to be constantly in films because you need to be seen. I think that's a completely different kind of mindset, which is great, and I want nobody to sort of, it's not for me. That's all. And I can only be true to who I am. So that's what it is. So it's not about, I want to do 3 films every year, because will I enjoy doing them? Will I be able to do something different? If not, then I don't know if
no,
I want to
it's
do
like
that.
you're a discerning actor, and discerning actors are few and far between. And I think it's absolutely essential. And the other thing that I was thinking about what you said or you asked was that as a filmmaker, it takes a lot of pressure off you because you stop self-censoring your work.
Right.
So it's not only just censoring that happens afterwards, but because we know what the censoring is potentially going to be about, even while we're writing our scripts, we tend to. And I think that is the end or death of art.
Which is so sad.
Which is so sad. Which is very sad.
What do you want people to take away from the show? If there's 1 or 2 things.
Huma says,
I think just be
how
real.
brilliant Huma is.
I mean, like, guys,
Yeah,
बहुत serious बातें होगी. Let's talk about like
Huma
the
is
actual
great
stuff
on the
that
show.
matters now.
But I mean, it's
She is
amazing.
great. Yeah,
Isn't
you're
she
so
brilliant?
good on the show.
I mean, no, it's not full of shit. Can we say shit on TV?
Yeah,
Of course you
yeah.
can.
Okay.
Digital,
Yeah,
it's not
shit, kya
digital.
pata?
You can say shit.
Censorship.
Shit.
No.
And then- no, but seriously, it's I think she just ate the screen. She really did. I'm just being
I
nice
would
to you.
second that.
I'm just acting also. I'm also acting saying, oh God, please don't compliment me. I don't like it.
That's such bad acting. No,
This is not the kind of acting I've done in Leila. Just putting it out there. Okay.
So other than being really scared about the future,
other than the fact we never have water to drink, or the pollution will kill
that we
us.
just die of pollution.
But that's fine, guys. What is this Quint?
Yes.
Quint dikhna, huh?
we also find a really engaging show. So thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank
you so much. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.